I am so glad that it is documented earlier, that I said something earlier about not being a fan of most of that group's songs. I mean, I just thought it was played over and over again, but I'm glad I said it before y'all's chatter started. But I do wonder, was my subconscious telling me something? Did my subconscious know something? Greetings and salutations. This is your girl, Outspoken Diva, and let's have a talk about it, shall we? My long intro. I mean, y'all know I've never had an intro that long. Uh, was about the chit chatter y'all have going on about Brandy and her book, and revealing that her and Wanya Morris of uh, Boys to Men fame dated when she was a teenager and he was 21, 22 years old. She was 15, 16 years old. Sorry, I had a phone call. Um, I'm still on the clock. Anyways, so y'all have chit chatter about that. And I'm here. This talk about is about the chit chatter and some of the things that some of y'all are a little kind of off about. Um, First of all, I recently saw someone speak about someone else saying that Gen X failed Brandy. As a member of Gen X, I am not quite a whole year older than Brandy, so but we're both part of the latter parts of Gen X. So people don't really understand a lot of things. How can the generation that Brandy was in fail her when they lack the how I'm gonna say this, the knowledge of age knowledge, life knowledge, that they lack the same knowledge that Brandy had. I can't protect Brandy when I am in the same, life culture at the time that she's in. Cause I'm gonna tell y'all something. The word grooming, when it came to relationships, and especially age inappropriate relationships, that wasn't a word. Grooming was, preparing, but it had nothing to. It was preparing your looks, preparing your body, preparing your hair, your makeup, your clothes, all that kind of stuff. That's grooming, you know. Not that was what the original term was, as opposed to someone being predator toward prey per se. Yeah, that was not the term, or at least not a public term. Maybe in counseling worlds, maybe, but that wasn't like a vocal term. That's number one. The most I might have heard was lying in wait. No, he was lying in wait for her. Those kind of things. So how would we be, Generation X? You know, only people that failed Brandy were Brandy's parents and Wanya Morris, or in anyone else that was older than Brandy that knew about it. That's the next part of how can Gen X fail Brandy. Um, Gossip did not move like gossip moves now. Okay, I mean the closest I remember when it came to black gossip of such things that like they got the story a little bit more. I mean, before everyone else, like like we had Word Up magazine and Ebony and Rap Wrap It Up, Rap something, but and the hair magazines didn't gossip and stuff, um and Jet and Essence and stuff. But then when you had somebody like Flo Anthony, some people say Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams was not popular down here that I know of, but she was not in the South. But we did have Flo Anthony. But it was not said that Brandy and Wanya were dating for a long time. Like they had ever dated. I really did. Did not know that Brandy and Wanya ever dated until the next album, the Never Say Never album, or Angel in the Size. That second album, I think it's called Never Say Ever or Angel in the Size, whatever. Which is interesting enough that now we think about it, Angel in Disguise, the angel was Adina Howard. We'll talk about that in a minute also. Um, no. But so by the time I find out if uh if that album didn't come out till like I was 2021, I'm thinking that Brandy was 18 when her and Wanye were dating. Still doesn't mean that grooming could not have happened, but again, that was not a term, okay? You also have to know, some of y'all don't understand the culture of how things have progressed, You have to progress, you had to be things mindsets had to be different back then, before you can progress. Trust me, the progression did not start in the 90s, okay? Okay, so if we didn't know, because no one said, no, you knew that happened, but no, it really wasn't like known like that until within recent day, okay? That's why he could sit up there on the Breakfast Club and do an interview saying that she was of age. Okay, that still goes along with the, she was 18. Because, I mean, clearly 15, 16, some say 17. That's not of age, right? Okay. Because clearly 16 is not of age, okay? So, give Gen X a break, okay? Because no one in Gen X failed her, except for him, because he was, the predator. I'm sorry, I've never understood, and trust me, I always had a age age cutoff. I had an age range that in high school I did not date past 4 years of my age, and I did not date younger than me at all. Uh, but I remember when I was a freshman, this other girl was a freshman. She went to prom with this guy that went to another school. And I mean, we knew, it was cool and all that kind of stuff. But I remember adults were asking, was he 16? I mean, was he 17 or 18 as a senior when she went to prom with him? I remember that. Okay. So some things were said, but not, and if people don't know. So you can't hold people. Again, the adults that did know are the adults that failed Brandy. Other than Wanya, most of the adults that knew in Brandy's life, like her parents, were not Generation X. Okay, that's number one. Number two, let's talk about Adina Howard, y'all, and this Adina Howard, Wanya, and Brandy. Okay, that's when I really actually I didn't know about that Adina Howard could have been the angel in disguise. I mean, it's probably a bunch of angels in disguise in this situation. But it wasn't until on Unsung when Adina Howard made it known when she was talking about how her second album was shelved was because the whole thing blew up, and she, was finding out that, Wanye was cheating. Oh, this sounds so crazy to talk about because a child is involved. Was cheating on Brandy with Adina Howard, or so they thought, there was actually, three people thing going on, and of course, unfortunately, per usual, Adina Howard and Brandy were fussing, but then they both were the same label mates under Sylvia Rome's record company. She was the president at the time. And Sylvia Rome tried to give her some uh advice, let this go, this go. Well, Adina Howard got on an interview and said some nasty things about Sylvia Rome and her Second album got cut. Now, Adina Howard did not. I hope she sees that. Yeah, she did not do a good. No, she did a disservice to herself. You know, it's already that you're fussing with this young woman. No, not even young woman. This girl, this teenage girl. Okay, yeah. Granted, you're in your early 20s. Also, as they say, 25. You know, your frontal cortex is not developed. Okay, whatever. You're already fussing with this girl. Someone older than you, someone that is your that affects your money, tells you to do, gives you some friendly advice, and then you diss that person. Yeah, you didn't do yourself. You did yourself a disservice. So, whether she's the angel in disguise or not, Adina Howard is not a victim per se. I mean, she's a victim of, this man. This man is messing with this young woman, and you are involved and all this kind of stuff. Number one, you shouldn't have been messing with him in the first place. Number one, if he's someone else's. Number two, why would you even be involved with someone that is involved with a child? But again, no one ever says this at the moment. Everyone wants to, but at some point in time, we always, I don't care if children lie, if children are putting themselves in harm's danger in this situation. They putting themselves in, in the eyesight or whatever. Adults need to always be adults. Okay, I don't care if Brandy sat in his lap. Oh, I like you. Da da da. He should have flung her off his lap. Adults always need to be adults. Okay, older people need to be older people. Older teenagers need to be older teenagers. Everybody needs to know their rules. Okay, you know the rules. You know common sense. You know right from wrong. Okay, Adina Howard. Instead of fussing with that that teenager, that young girl, you were grown. You was over 21. Instead of fussing with her, you should have been an adult and moved yourself out of that situation. And that's a real deal. And what you should not have done was gone and did an interview and disrespected and said nasty things towards your towards the money, towards the record company. No, towards leadership of the record company. Sorry, okay. And also, again, adults need to always be adults. Now, let's talk about why certain things we didn't know, back to Gen X, we didn't know and all this kind of stuff. Some of y'all do not remember, some of y'all don't look at, don't know history, don't know, culture, timeline, all this kind of stuff. At the same time, they are saying that all this happened, there was another inappropriate relationship that was taking uh the top talking points of music culture at that time, and that was Aaliyah and R. Kelly. And it was said that uh, Aaliyah and R. Kelly uh, were married. All around that same time, because I remember that all showed up around my junior year in high school. So this probably would have been around the same time Brandy and Wanya were involved per se. I don't. That sounds so yo. Okay, now that sounds disgusting to me to say. When I was that age, I probably would have been like, I would have been grossed out, but it wouldn't have sounded so crazy to say to me. But R. Kelly, which said, it does say so. That was a story. I mean, that was the story. That was top story. So if no one was calling her name and they were, like I said, this story about R. Kelly and Aaliyah, supposed to be had been married and all this kind of stuff. Um, I mean, they got married and stuff. That was again, R. Kelly and Aaliyah had been married months before the story came to us. Okay, So if you can, all y'all doing is dating, and y'all keeping that on the hush, no one's looking at y'all because we are looking at this more egregious at the time situation. Of course, they got, again, news didn't move like it did back then. Okay, so yeah. Then also, people are upset with Gary with the T. I mean, what he said is not, not darning. But he's like, well, Wanya should have his say. No, why is she just not saying sits in a book and not in interviews and all this kind of stuff? Because that's the platform she chose to say it in. Number one. Number two, if Gary knew what he was talking about, he would have known that he said, Wanya said something in a Breakfast Club interview some time ago. Okay, but at some point, y'all have always. I won't say what I can't say what I want to say on here, but we will say that, there are misogynistic gay men. I don't know why people like always are like shocked. And I don't, not to discredit his age, but he's a man of his age, of his time. A lot of gay men, or excuse me, LGBT presenting men are of that community are misogynistic. Okay, I'm sorry. Misogyny has no uh, mm, sexuality. Okay, people believe what they want to believe, and you can't. A lot of times they can't. I remember, I'm a fan. I was a fan. When it was still on of Dish Nation. Love me. Don't get me wrong. I love Gary with the T down, but he still said, yeah, she had a baby for him, not by him, with him, for him. I know that, and because I know what part of the country that Gary with a T is from, that's how they talk because that's what they believe. You had a baby for, oh no, women have babies for men. Okay, so and then that was like this thing, and they like like bust out laughing like, no, she didn't have a baby for him, she had a baby by him, and I because that is a thing. That is, he believes that, and again, there just like there are pick me women who they're male identified women who think very patriarchal things. Gay men also are misogynistic also, okay, and they think of things in being patriarchy standpoint. My sister's dog is right here, so he wants to be pet. So this is why y'all might see some jumping and stuff. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm glad that Brandy is telling her truth at this time, on her terms and her way. It is unfortunate that these things happen to her. It's unfortunate that people still think of oh no, Brandy was being fast and all this kind of stuff instead of blaming that adult man for not being an adult man. Okay, so it's still unfortunate that y'all still think this way, but some of y'all are talking in ways that y'all are not using common sense. Okay, y'all are not using common sense, and unfortunately we have to start accepting, just like I said, some of y'all don't understand that there are misogynistic gay men. I also have to remember that common sense is not that common, right? So yeah. Have I read the book? No, I'm just talking about what y'all been talking about. It'll be a while before I read the book because I think the only time I ever read a memoir when it was fresh off the presses was Cicely Tyson's memoir. I haven't even read Michelle Obama's. I just read Viola Davis's last year. Her and I think I just read um, Gabourey Sidibe's memoir the year before last. So yeah, I never read anyone's memoir when it's fresh off the presses because y'all are talking about it. And I don't want to. Yeah. So I'll wait. I'll wait, and maybe next year I'll read Phases by Brandy. But I am going to read it. So yeah. But yeah, we just, of course, we have to talk about this stuff that, like, again, people just don't want to understand, and I wish they would. Again, Brandy was not being fast. Yes, she was being groomed. A lot of us were groomed. I say us. Not that I was dating anyone older, but I can tell there was some folks that was, lying in wait, that were trying, that, you were like, no, let me go on, but again, I follow a different system. Even when I was a teenager, I still follow a different system. I still have a cutoff age. Okay, so younger and older. Okay, and definitely it won't be anybody that's younger. Yeah, no. so yeah, that's what we talking. What's I'm talking about. What are your opinions about it? Of course, this is a free speech zone here, except for you cannot be hateful, and we're not gonna be arguing in here. Down below in the comments on the social media site that you see this on. Um, so yeah, you get you be disrespectful or disgusting or hateful. I'm just gonna delete your comment, okay? And yeah, other than that, if you're on Facebook, of course, Facebook, you leave yours down below on YouTube. So other than that, talking to you in adult terms.